What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Fairweather Rider channel. I am the Fairweather Rider. Some call me Peabo. Today's mission, we're about to ride across the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway. On this mission, I'm serving in the role as the rear gunner. The rear gunner means that I'm the last bike in the group. And so there are three of us. The soldier that's leading the ride up there is Wild Child, riding that Harley Davidson CVO. The soldier behind Wild Child is K-Free. He's the president of the Alexandria chapter of the National Association of Buffalo Soldiers and Troopers Motorcycle Club. And me, I'm the Fairweather Rider. I'm also the secretary of the Alexandria chapter. Wild Child has been in contact with one of the soldiers from the New Orleans chapter of the National Association of Buffalo Soldiers and Troopers Motorcycle Club. So there may be one or maybe more of them who are going to meet us on the other side of the causeway once we ride into New Orleans.
In a quarter mile, your destination will be on the left.
What's up, family? Peabo the Fairweather Rider on our first stop heading to the Pontchartrain Causeway. I'll try to keep you guys updated as we get there. As I said, the mission this time is not about the ride to the bridge, but it's about the ride across the bridge. We're going to cross this bridge, hopefully meet up with some soldiers from the New Orleans chapter, have a good meal, and then we're going to start our journey back to Alexandria. For those of you all joining me for the first time, I really appreciate you staying around this far. If you're enjoying what you're watching, hit that subscribe button. The main focus of this channel is travel. I do product reviews when I buy things for myself or my motorcycle that are motorcycle related. And I also do practice sessions based on the slow speed maneuvers that you will see on Robert Simmons's Be the Boss of Your Motorcycle YouTube channel. If you're interested in those things, join me on my journey by hitting that subscribe button. And then share the video with family and friends. That way we can tell everybody that we grew this channel together. Stay with me, fam. I'll be back soon. Fairweather Rider. I'm putting miles on this Indian pursuit today. Mission to ride across the longest bridge over water in the world, the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway. I'll be back.
The next stop we make is going to be in Mandeville, which is the city right before we go across the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway. As y'all can see, we're practicing some of those maneuvers that we learned during the road captain's course. Wild Child, K-Free, and I participated in the training. So we're all kind of familiar with what happens once a road captain turns on a left or right turn signal. While we were back at that last gas stop, I also got a chance to ask K-Free about whether his gas gauge or his miles to empty goes above 220 when he fills his tank. And he pretty much told me for the most part it does. But there have been a couple of times lately where it jumps up to about 175 and stays there. So I asked him what did it do this time. And this time he said it went almost up to 230. So it's somewhere between 229 and 230. So help me out by letting me know if the miles to empty on your Indian Pursuit or Challenger goes above 220 once you fill up the tank. In case you're wondering, that's that Harley Davidson CVO up there bumping like that. Now we got that upgraded Roxford Fosgate system, and that's only 4 speakers, 2 in the fairing, 2 in the saddlebag. Got me want to go up there to the Indian motorcycle dealership in Alexandria. I know they still have that Challenger Elite on the showroom floor. I want to go up there and ask them to turn on the radio so that I can see if the radio on that bike matches or exceeds the radio on Wild Child's bike. I'm kind of curious. After listening to the radio, the speakers on that CVO, I want to know how the speakers on that Indian Elite compare. But we're getting ready to go across the causeway, family. And as I said, for the first several miles, if not all the way through, I'm going to be talking about the history of this bridge.
How the Lake Pontchartrain was constructed was made into a documentary that appeared on Barden Marvels. Let me first acknowledge that most of the information I'm providing, I learned while watching that documentary. If you are interested in a more in-depth discussion of the causeway, I provided the link to that documentary in the notes to this video. There are 2 parallel bridges spanning nearly 24 miles, allowing commuters to traverse Lake Pontchartrain. The Lake Pontchartrain Causeway is in the Guinness Book of World Records as the longest bridge over continuous water in the world. Once you drive for about 8 miles, you lose sight of land in all directions. However, it is a beautiful sight that allows commuters an opportunity to look at an amazing sunset or sunrise, depending on when you decide to cross the causeway. The 2 bridges are 84 feet apart. On any given day, about 30 to 40,000 vehicles drive across the causeway to traverse Lake Pontchartrain. On the north shore of the causeway is Mandeville and New Orleans to the south. There are no breakdown lanes on the bridges, but there are 7 turnouts that provide a safe haven for drivers who break down or simply want to turn around and go back the way they came. If you're traveling on the northbound bridge from New Orleans to Mandeville, you get a free ride. However, if you're traveling on the southbound lane, you must pay a toll, usually about $3.50. You can pay the toll using GoPass, toll tag, credit debit card, or cash. Whatever you do, do not try to speed past the booth without paying. The person at the booth has equipment to radio police who will be waiting on the causeway to deal with anyone who would dare enter the causeway without paying. Once you get on the causeway, there's absolutely nowhere to run or hide from the police. So save yourself a lot of trouble and just pay the toll. Before getting into the history of the causeway and how the bridges were built, let's talk about how necessity was the motivating factor that inspired the creation of the longest bridge over continuous water in the world. New Orleans is best known for its rich history, vibrant music, and distinct Creole cuisine. The city is famous for Mardi Gras, its historic French Quarter with the unique architecture and nightlife, and being the birthplace of jazz music. Its food is also a major draw, with iconic dishes like gumbo, jambalaya, and beignets.
There are police reported ahead.
The music and nightlife. New Orleans is the birthplace of jazz, and live music can be heard throughout the city. The French Quarter, especially Bourbon Street, is famous for its lively bars and jazz clubs. The culture and festivals. New Orleans is world renowned for its annual Mardi Gras festival, which features elaborate parades, costumes, and music. New Orleans hosts other festivals throughout the year, such as the French Quarter Festival and the Jazz and Heritage Festival. For your sports fans, the city also hosts the Bayou Classic each year. The Bayou Classic features a football game between historically black colleges and universities, Southern University and Grambling University. The event lasts the entire weekend and includes a Battle of the Bands and Greek show on Friday, a parade, a fan festival, and a football game on Saturday. The cuisine in New Orleans. New Orleans is a food lover's paradise, known for its Creole and Cajun dishes influenced by French, African, and Caribbean tradition. Must-try foods include gumbo jambalaya, beignets, often paired with coffee. If you find yourself in a Cajun state, ask about the variety of ways that chefs prepare the local delicacy known as crawfish. Some of the common ways I've seen it prepared would be crawfish broil, crawfish etouffee, crawfish bisque, crawfish pie, crawfish creole. Trust me, these are just a few of the creative ways I've seen people prepare crawfish. For history and agriculture, the French Quarter, the city's oldest neighborhood, is famous for its blend of French and Spanish architecture. The city has unique features such as above-ground cemeteries due to its low-lying geography. But New Orleans was not always the major attraction it is today. There was a time when city dwellers would escape the city during hurricane season or during the summer. Drainage has always been a problem since the city was founded in 1718. While the nickname Crescent City refers to its shape along the bend in the Mississippi River, New Orleans is physically shaped like a topographic depression or a bowl. The city sits in a low-lying area between the Mississippi River and Lake Pontchartrain, with most of the land below sea level. The city's usual topography is a result of human engineering and land subsidence. When French colonies settled in Louisiana in the early 1700s, they built on the natural levees of the Mississippi River, which were the highest grounds in the area. The rest of the region was low-lying swamp. As the city grew, 19th and 20th century engineers developed an ambitious system of pumps to drain the swampy area between the natural levees and Lake Pontchartrain. This allowed the city to expand significantly beyond the original footprint. The constant pumping of water out of the marshy soil caused it to dry out and depress, a process known as subsidence. Over time, this caused the newly developed area to sink in some areas as much as 6 feet below sea level. Today, the city is an engineered bowl with the higher elevation land along the Mississippi and Lake Pontchartrain protected by levees.
There are police reported ahead.
The extensive system of pumps is required to remove rainwater, but this design makes the city especially vulnerable to catastrophic flooding if the levees fail, as tragically demonstrated during Hurricane Katrina in 2005. There were many torrential rains in the early 1950s. City dwellers would escape from low areas, moving toward the river, or better yet, across Lake Pontchartrain, where the land is high and far from the danger of stagnant, polluted water. The ever-looming fear of a flood hastened the need for an escape bridge. There was inadequate municipal sanitation, so there would be outbreaks of cholera, typhus, and other diseases. So New Orleans was thought of as unhealthy. This prompted most people to escape the city during the summertime. Coincidentally, the summertime is when you would start to read news articles about how healthy the city was. But most summers, most of the people would escape the city, and there would be no one left to write about the health of the city. The place to go was and still is across Lake Pontchartrain to the north shore towns like Mandeville, Slidell, and Madisonville. These cities were known for their pine-scented fresh air and healthy environment. However, there was no quick and straightforward way around the 610 square mile Lake Pontchartrain. Depending on the route and the condition of the automobile you were driving, the journey from South Shore to the North Shore could take anywhere from 4 to 5 hours. Ferry services were inconsistent, expensive, and sometimes dangerous because of the potential squalls on the lake. A squall is a sudden, short-lived, and intense storm characterized by a rapid increase in wind speed, often accompanied by rain, snow, lightning, and thunder. Some ferries enjoyed periods of modest success, but none of them lasted. Many people chose to stay in the city rather than brave the 4 or 5 hour journey in the oppressive heat. But as the automobile revolutionized transportation in America, the people of Louisiana started to look upon the Lake Pontchartrain as a hurdle to be jumped rather than a wall to be flanked. In the late 1920s, some dreamers in and around New Orleans began proposing schemes to bring automobile traffic to the North Shore of Lake Pontchartrain. Some of these ideas were more ambitious than they were realistic.
In half a mile, you will arrive at your destination.
Half a mile?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that half a mile would put me right in the middle of the causeway. But let me get back to this history. There was a proposal to build a causeway from the North Shore to New Orleans. The plan was to dredge a series of islands across Lake Pontchartrain and build bridges to connect the islands. Once they completed each island, the plan was to subdivide the land and sell the lots. The money from the sale of the lots would be used to pay for the construction of the bridge. However, as the project was moving forward, two gentlemen, Watson and Williams, planned to build a 7-mile bridge across the eastern end of Lake Pontchartrain using a simple concrete structure. The project effectively killed the project involving a series of islands. When Huey P. Long became governor of Louisiana 4 years later, the Williams-Watson Bridge had been built and was charging $1.25 for each car to cross. As one of his first acts as governor, Governor Long authorized the construction of a free bridge just east of the Williams-Watson Bridge. The free bridge put the Watson and Williams Construction Company out of business, and the state purchased the bridge for pennies on the dollar. As a result of these other bridges cutting shorter paths across Lake Pontchartrain, the commute to traverse Lake Pontchartrain was reduced to about 1.5 hours. Yet none of these bridges dared to cross straight across the middle of Lake Pontchartrain as the bold island scheme had proposed. It was not until the 1950s that a new scheme for crossing the Lake Pontchartrain would gain momentum. It was driven as much by innovative technology as by demand for a bridge that significantly reduced the time to traverse Lake Pontchartrain. In the 1950s, research began on the concrete that would be used to form the slabs and pilings used to build the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, pre-stressed concrete. By 1954, the legislature created the Greater New Orleans Expressway Commission that would operate the causeway. This commission issued the bonds to finance the bridge and would select the winning bid that would be charged with constructing the causeway. Around the same time, a consortium of business interests formed the Louisiana Bridge Company. Their goal was to win the bid from the New Orleans Expressway Commission to construct the causeway. In 1955, the Louisiana Bridge Company started construction on what would become the first Lake Pontchartrain Bridge, the world's first pre-manufactured bridge. The components of the bridge were built at a plant on the coast of Lake Pontchartrain on the north shore of Mandeville. The Louisiana Bridge Company was given 24 months to complete the longest bridge over continuous water ever constructed. It took about 14 months to complete the first Lake Pontchartrain Causeway. It was opened for business on August 30th, 1956 to great fanfare. The two-lane highway trestle bridge used 2,243 precast panels, each 36 feet wide and 56 feet long, and is supported by 9,500 concrete pre-stressed pilings. It stretched for 23.86 miles across the middle of Lake Pontchartrain. From the time the causeway opened, demand was immediate and overwhelming. The single causeway had 2 lanes of traffic, one for each direction, and it cost $1 to cross the causeway. New Orleans was 29 miles and over an hour closer to the North Shore. People who lived in St. Tammany Parish on the North Shore could commute to their jobs in New Orleans. Housing grew, traffic grew, and that certainly gave industry and commerce a boost. It gave city dwellers another evacuation route out of New Orleans, which most people would tell you is the most prone for hurricanes but the least prepared. Within a few years, the causeway was overwhelmed with over 3,000 vehicles per day. The Causeway Commission quickly realized that there was only one solution. They needed to build another causeway across Lake Pontchartrain. The Lake Pontchartrain Causeway was such a success that within a few years it was nearing capacity. Although people considered the causeway a boon, it had its drawbacks. The 2-lane highway provided no safe zone for breakdowns, and the narrow roadway could be hazardous when there was a heavy fog. The potential for a head-on collision was also a problem. Preparation for a second causeway started in the mid-1960s, and the plant the Louisiana Bridge Company built to prefabricate the components of the bridge was still operating. Further, engineers only needed to look at the bridge already built for a template for designing the second bridge. Construction for the second span began in September 1967. The new span would address some of the drawbacks of the first span. There was no question that the prefabrication method would be used again. However, the method to make the pre-stressed concrete had been improved since the first span was built. As a result, the slabs used for the second span were 84 feet long as opposed to 56 feet long. The technique used to construct the pilings had also improved. In fact, some sections of the old bridge were deconstructed and reconstructed using the new technique. The prefabrication was more efficient and workers were able to lay more slabs per week. Despite these improvements in technology and process, it took an additional 2 months to build the second bridge, but it was still built well within the time allotted. Additionally, One of the most notable improvements for the second span is that it did not have the bumpy ride of the first span. This was because engineers were able to compensate for the expansion of the concrete that created the bumpy ride when you're going across the first span. If you've ever ridden across both spans, north and southbound, leave us a comment to let us know if you noticed the difference. On May 10, 1969, the new 4-lane Lake Pontchartrain Causeway opened, sending 2 lanes of traffic south from Mandeville to New Orleans and 2 lanes of traffic north from New Orleans to Mandeville. There was one notable difference between the 2 spans. The new span was 1/100th of a mile longer than the first span at 23.87 miles across the middle of Lake Pontchartrain, making it the longest bridge over continuous water in the world. From the time the second causeway opened, traffic has steadily climbed, with over 50 miles of roadway, a full-time police force, and thousands of commuters driving every day. The Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, in a lot of ways, resembles a small city. The large staff that monitors the causeway has several responsibilities. There is a $6 million, 15-sign message board warning motorists of the traffic conditions instantly. So when there's a vehicle broke down on the causeway, the signs will instantly alert motorists to get over to the left or right lane, whatever the case may be. There's also a radio station dedicated to the causeway, specifically to provide safety information and instructions. There are 102 call boxes lined along the north and the southbound bridges. These safety precautions have significantly contributed to the causeway's remarkable safety record. The causeway shuts down when the wind speed gets above 50 miles per hour or when the bridge is covered by heavy fog. But don't worry, if you are caught on the causeway during a time of a heavy fog, the staff is equipped with special vehicles to come and guide you off the bridge. They're also equipped with trucks to quickly tow someone who happened to break down on the bridge. If you are not excited about riding across the longest bridge over continuous water in the world, there are also several other ways for you to traverse Lake Pontchartrain. If you want to know more about the Lake Pontchartrain Causeway, I have provided a link to the documentary in the notes to this video.
I can see land now, family. Even though I couldn't see land, I think that building right there is visible for just about the whole way across the bridge. We did it. We made it across the historic Lake Pontchartrain Causeway. If I ever do this again, though, I'm gonna have to make sure that I'm better prepared with my equipment. I'm gonna have to make sure I'm better prepared with my equipment. The selfie stick doesn't translate well when it comes to high-speed travel.
In 1,000 feet, use the left 2 lanes to turn left onto West Esplanade Avenue.
All right. Soldier right here with me, Noah, on the trike. People out there sailing. This is the famous Lakeshore Drive. Right on the ocean front. Lakefront. Just a whole lot of water.
Turn right. Then your destination will be on the right.
All right. Is this Landry's, the famous seafood restaurant? Y'all know I'm a vegan. I don't even eat meat. But who knows? We'll see. Even though I don't eat meat, I still love me some good seafood. I haven't had any in about 3-4 years though. I heard that hardly bumping. Let's listen to it for a second. I'm not worried about not getting. I'm not worried about getting demonetized because I'm not monetized. All right, that's enough. I'll be back, family. Let me go find. Let me go see if I can find something to eat in here.
I am back on Ruby, my 2023 Indian Pursuit. We just left Landry's. Don't worry, I decided to order something off the vegan-friendly menu. But I will say, if you find yourself on Lakeshore Drive, make sure you go stop by Landry's and have yourself a good meal. Now that we're back on this road, family, we decided to drive by Southern University. One more thing that I learned while eating at Landry's. I'm going to have to convince some soldiers or family to come down to New Orleans, and we're going to have to rent ourselves a small boat or a larger boat to go out and spend some time on Lake Pontchartrain. When that happens, I'll be sure to invite you guys and bring you along with me.
Take exit 6. Continue for half a mile.
All right, family. We're just about at Southern University. After we get to campus, I'm gonna have to let Wild Child take over. They said if he knows how to get to where the tailgate is being held. I know I don't know how to get there.
At the light.
Once we get there, we're going to link up with some soldiers from the St. Gabriel chapter. We're going to hang out. We're going to fellowship. And you know those guys from the St. Gabriel chapter love to cook. And then we're going to get back on this road headed to Alexandria. The way things are going right now, it's definitely going to be dark by the time we get there. But I'm on my Indian Pursuit, so I'm prepared for the darkness. All right, family. I'm back on the Indian Pursuit, riding straight into the night. As I said, I knew it was going to be dark by the time we got back on the road, or by the time we got to Alexandria. We did get a chance to link up with some Buffalo soldiers. Those guys from St. Gabriel, they never disappoint when it comes to the food that they're serving. And this time was no different. But this is another opportunity for me to show you the front lights on this Indian Pursuit and how it illuminates the road during night riding. Again, let me know if you think that I'm right when I think that this Indian Pursuit does a great job when it comes to providing the light needed to ride at night. Now that the front is covered, I do think I need some more lights to go on the back of the bike, and maybe some that allow you to see me a little more from the side of the bike. So what I've done is I've purchased some zero lights. They're zero lights, but I think they're made by Ride Culture. I have purchased some spar side lights to go on the side of the tour pack. I've purchased some machete lights that go on the side of the saddlebag. And I've purchased some saddlebag lights. I believe they're called Bryant M1 lights. And what I'm going to do is remove the lights that I have that I purchased from Indian, because the Indian lights are run only, and the Bryant M1 lights are run, brake, and turn. And so I'm going to take those off and replace them. You may get a glimpse of all the lights that I've added in a future video, but my goal is to wait until I do a full review of the motorcycle when I walk around and show you all the things that I have added to the motorcycle, just to make it a little more comfortable for me, or just to make it look a little better. So stay tuned, that video is coming. I am almost at my house, but before I close out this video, there are two things that I want to recommend. One, if you get a chance to ride across the Pontchartrain Causeway, take an opportunity to do it. It's a great experience and something that you'll always remember and be able to tell people about in the future. Number two, if you're ever invited to a tailgate at Southern University, you should go. I've only been to a couple of tailgates in my lifetime, and I can tell you that this one was one of the best. From the atmosphere, the people, everything. So if you get a chance, don't miss out. What's up, family? Peabo the Fairweather Rider. Happy to report that I'm back at home, back here in central Louisiana, also known as Sinla. Just pulling into the driveway. I'm about to go into the Fairweather garage, but before I do, I just wanted to thank everyone for staying with me this far. I declare this mission a success. I'm going to close out this video by reminding everyone that my bike of choice is an Indian Pursuit. Go look at that bike that you have parked at your house. You've already purchased the bike. If you like it the way you say you like it, get out there and put some miles on it. And while you're out there, be on the lookout for a striker red metallic, black metallic, Indian Pursuit dark horse. It might just be me, and we can ride together. This is the Fairweather Rider, and you know I'll be back for the next episode.